Greece, home of ancient gods, birthplace of European civilization, and a country of great warriors and philosophers. But also a country with many islands, with tiny villages and white houses, with a deep blue sea and everlasting sunshine. A paradise on earth. Although ancient Greek legends tell of fantastic adventures, today life on the Greek islands is calm and relaxed, a combination of culture and history. Our journey begins in the Peloponnese. Separated from the mainland by the man-made Corinth Channel, this is now part of the metropolitan area of the Greek capital that for thousands of years has gradually developed into a dynamic metropolis. Athens, a lively city set in historic surroundings. The capital of Greece has a long history. Athens was founded 3,500 years ago and had its golden age during Greek antiquity under the democratic rule of Pericles. At that time, the symbol of one of Europe's most influential cultures was created, Greece's national sanctuary, the Acropolis. Unique among all other Greek temples, with its imposing appearance and artistic decoration, this temple signified the great influence and power of ancient Athens. 6 female figures, the Karyatides, support the southern hall of the Ionic Temple of Erechtheion, that stands on sacred ground close to the main temple. Legend has it that during a contest between the gods, Poseidon left the imprint of his trident on a rock, upon which Athene created an olive tree. Just off the tourist trail, some years ago, German archaeologists discovered the ancient Kerameikos cemetery, a place of tranquility and contemplation. This was once the setting of national funeral ceremonies, and many of these ancient gravestones doubtless hold the secrets of many a Greek tragedy. The adjoining museum contains many objects that were discovered in this area and which have helped to provide an understanding of the burial rites of ancient Greece. The heart of the ancient city of Athens was its market square, the Archaea Agora, the focal point of public life. This was a place of political institutions, where gods had their temples and heroes their statues. It was here that business was done and tales were told. The imposing Mitrópolis is the main Greek Orthodox cathedral in Athens. A total of 4 architects designed this cathedral, whose walls comprise the remains of no less than 70 former sacred buildings. During its construction, more than 32,000 archaeological discoveries were uncovered, some of which are exhibited in each of the subway's 6 subterranean stations. This large market reflects the life of this lively city. Goods are offered for sale, haggled over and finally purchased, from early morning until late at night. Everything is well presented: meat, fish and fruits. Amid all the city's hustle and bustle is the National Park. Small pathways and ponds are set in the shade of palms and a variety of old trees, an oasis of tranquility and relaxation. In front of the old royal castle and today's parliament, the Evzonen stand guard. The presidential guards wear white kilts, tights, embroidered cardigans and pointed red shoes. Great sporting events were held in ancient Athens every 4 years. In the centre of the city's noisy traffic is an ancient monument that is 1,900 years old and stands 18 metres high, the Pili Adrianou Gate. Directly beyond the archway is the entrance to the Olympic Zeus temple, whose colossal columns have remained impressive to the present day. The foundations of this huge temple were built in the 6th century BC and completed during the rule of Emperor Hadrian. In recent times, the remains of Roman baths and dwellings have been discovered. Built in 1860, the National Archaeological Museum contains the largest collection of Greek antiquities in the world, Greece's version of the Paris Louvre. Large exhibition rooms display the treasures of many historic epochs. We can imagine how it was in those great times of lost cultures. Since antiquity, Piraeus has been Athens' main harbour, the gateway to more than 2,000 Greek islands, and today with a large choice of ferry boats. Loud and frenetic, vital and busy. In contrast, there's a large yachting harbour. Since antiquity, Acropolis has been a vantage point for the important sea routes both to and from Athens. At a height of 60 meters is one of the most beautifully located temples in Greece that was once used by seafarers. This setting captures the unique essence of Greek antiquity. "15 slender, weather-beaten columns stand on a rocky cliff above Aegis, a remote temple that was dedicated to the god of the sea, Poseidon. The evening sun descends slowly across the remnants of ancient Greece. The marble of the temple shines golden as though to thank the gods for creating this remarkable city. A city in which both antiquity and the present unite. A symbol of the Occident. Kalispera, good night Athens. The small harbour entrance is still guarded by an old cannon, a remnant of the Albanian refugees who lived here in the 16th century. The island of Idra consists of granite rock and no fresh water. But the harbour in the main town is truly enchanting. On the quayside, donkeys await the next arrival of boats and their cargo of passengers and goods. Here, time means nothing. Around 3,000 people live on the island, most of them earning their living from fishing and tourism. Visitors to the island don't come here for its beaches, but to enjoy its special ambience that has for many years also attracted a large number of international musicians and artists. The small monastery on the harbour is the cultural side of Idra and is always popular with visitors. Its design is quite superb. As it was impossible to grow anything on the island's unyielding rock, the Albanian refugees travelled the seas and traded with Russia and Western Europe. This brought them much prosperity. Ship owners and sea captains had splendid villas built on the scant hillsides of the harbour, and in 1821 the island had a population of 30,000. Since 1893, the 6,000-metre-long Corinth Canal has connected Piraeus harbour with the Ionic Sea. Between the Greek mainland and the Peloponnese are the extensive ruins of ancient Corinth. Once a magnificent building, only a few of the Doric columns of the Apollo temple that dates back to the 6th century have survived. Around the turn of the millennium, Rome also recognized the unique strategic value of the city. They designated Corinth as the seat of the Roman governor of the province of Achaia. Important archaeological finds have been discovered in what was formerly an urban area. They are now exhibited in a local museum. The exhibition features objects from the artistic beginnings of the Neolithic era to masterpieces of archaic sculpture and wall and floor mosaics. The museum provides a comprehensive insight into the city's artistic history and former prosperity. From the ancient fortresses of Acropolis, there's a splendid view across the former city to the sea. The Cyclades Islands are situated in the middle of the South Aegean, which, like a magic circle, flows around its former centre, the holy island of Delos. Mykonos. For centuries, this picturesque former pirate village in the middle of the Cyclades group of islands has been the meeting place for artists, V.I.Ps and the international glitterati. The picture book splendour of the focal point of this half-moon-shaped island lies in a protected bay on its west coast. Everywhere, brilliant white houses with their green, blue, red and yellow windows and doors, and the deep, rich blue of the sea. The Cyclades are also known as the pearls of Greece. It seems as if the gods have scattered a handful of beautiful pearls into the deep blue Aegean Sea. In ancient times, they were also known as the Islands of Light, because Apollo, the god of light and learning, was born here and also worshipped on these islands. Of more than 220 islands, only 25 are populated, with a total of 100,000 inhabitants. However, during the summer months, millions of holidaymakers invade the islands to capture the delights of sun, sea and sand. 5 old windmills dominate the picturesque bay of Mykonos. In earlier centuries, the town's millers not only supplied troops of soldiers and businessmen with fresh flour, but also pirates. Today, these windmills are the island's most fascinating landmark and are well preserved. The gleaming light and bright blue of the Aegean is almost blinding. Straight out of a picture book, the bay and the lively town of Mykonos come to life. The houses of the old town shine out in brilliant white, and the blue of the sea adds the finishing touch to the romantic setting. A special attraction is the district of Little Venice, the style of its buildings serving as a reminder of when the Venetians took possession of the island. The harbour is always a popular venue. It's where people meet for a chat and to be seen, and where housewives can buy fresh vegetables and fish. Slowly, the ferry to the island of Delos leaves the protection of the harbour, glides past Mykonos and out into the open sea. In ancient times, the rocky and infertile islands of Delos was the cultural and at times the commercial centre of the Cyclades Islands. Today, only a few security guards and their families live here, protecting Greece's most extensive excavation region. Deservedly, Delos is known as the Pompeii of the Aegean. Long since deserted temples, public buildings, houses and streets still conjure up the atmosphere of this once flourishing cultural and trading town. In the history of the Greek world, Delos played an important role as birthplace of Apollo and Artemis, and as the centre of the Attic-Delian Sea Union, as a cultural centre and place of pilgrimage, and also an important trading centre. Excavations uncovered houses of which the inner courtyards were decorated with mosaics. They depicted a variety of images such as dolphins, tigers, tridents and religious scenes. A final view of the past, of a large cosmopolitan harbour town in the Mediterranean. And soon, the ferry brings us to the next island. Naxos, the largest of the Cyclades Islands, with bubbling springs and gently flowing streams, colourful fields and fertile valleys. Steep, narrow streets lead up to the 50-metre high hill, past several houses, some of which bear the coat of arms of various Franconian aristocratic families. Without any formal planning, A city gradually developed here. Framed by thick whitewashed walls, charming inner courtyards give a feeling of peace and tranquility. Venetian influence is evident by numerous steps and balconies. Because of its central and fertile location, the island's Venetian founders chose it to be their main seat of government in 1207 and made Naxos the capital of the Cyclades duchy, which survived for 360 years. Their leader, Marco Sanudo, subsequently had a new fortress built close to the Acropolis. Next, the duchy fell to the Turks, but in reality it remained Venetian, as the occupying forces were only interested in collecting taxes. The main priority of the people who created this settlement was to create the best possible defense in case of pirate or other attack, and these took place all too frequently. The houses were built on steep slanting rocks. To keep out the cold, the windows are on the outside and the shutters on the inside. The balconies provide a good all-round view. Rocky bays surround the town on both sides of the harbour. Palatia can only be reached by crossing a dam. Here the island's landmark is prominent, the Portara. The colossal marble temple gate still shines golden yellow in the late afternoon light, and the ruins gleam in the fading sun. But soon the burning circle of the sun descends calmly into the tides of the Aegean Sea. Paros, the White Island. The oldest and largest church on the island dates back to the 6th century. This jewel of the Greek Orthodox Church was built on the remains of the Heraklion temple. In ancient Greece, each island was an autonomous state. Later, Alexander the Great unified them into a massive kingdom. Then followed the Romans, Venetians, Genoese and Turks. It was only in 1829 that the Cyclades were included in the unification of the Greek islands. The Archaeological Museum houses a collection of historic discoveries which have been made on the island. Gravestones from the 5th century BC, stone sculptures and heads carved from marble. In classical times, Paros was the richest island in the Aegean. Paros is also one of the most fertile of the islands. Wine, oil, potatoes and pulses are all produced here. Fishermen sit together, mending nets and prepare for their next voyage. Naousa probably possesses the most beautiful harbour in the Cyclades. Here, colourful fishing boats lie anchored tightly together, and natural tavernas complete the romantic scene. Paros has developed into being the hub of the ferry service and has thus become the third largest holiday island after Mykonos and Santorini. Santorini, the most southerly of the Cyclades Islands, legendary location of the mythical lost island of Atlantis, and also a breathtaking island paradise of rock, lava, sea and light. Survival here meant a constant battle against the forces of nature. The unique dimensions of Santorini are due to a natural disaster of devastating proportions. Over 3,500 years ago, a volcanic eruption sank most of the island beneath the sea. A bizarre crater rim remained, known as caldera, crescent-shaped and at different points protruding between 150 and 300 meters out of the sea. The resultant steep coastline offers spectacular views. In the narrow streets there are rows of jewellery and souvenir shops, bars and viewing terraces, all of which are frequented by hordes of tourists in the summer months. How easy it is to forget that one is walking on the rim of a volcanic crater. To be carried on the back of a mule up a volcano and over hundreds of steps is an extraordinary experience. Almost an adventure, and certainly a thrill, as the route is somewhat precipitous. The constant swaying to and fro is not exactly reassuring. For the mules, their daily journey up and down is certainly not a dance on the volcano. But the volcano is not totally extinct. In spite of this, Santorini is a lively island dedicated to the tourist industry. The comfortable ultra-modern cable car speedily and continuously transports its passengers from and to the harbour. What could be better than to sit here dreamily enjoying the view? Was it not the Greek god Poseidon who, with his trident, threw a handful of rocks onto the seabed which took root there and created the Cyclades? Crete, the island of light, birthplace of Zeus. Heraklion is the capital of the largest and most southerly of the Greek islands, on which a highly developed culture has existed for 4,000 years. Knossos, capital of Crete at the time of King Minos, son of the god Zeus and the Phoenician princess Europa. In 1878, the wonderful frescoes of the Knossos Palace were discovered by a rich businessman of Crete, who was also an archaeology enthusiast. Abducted by Zeus, and in the form of a white bull, Princess Europa was taken to Crete, where she gave birth to a son. According to Greek mythology, the culture of the Western world began with him. Of special note is the well-maintained throne room that contains the original throne of King Minos. Lassithi is the name of northern Crete's fertile plateau. Thanks to the fertile ground and natural underground water reserves, agriculture has flourished for centuries on the 60 square kilometers of the plateau. There were once thousands of windmills with white sails pumping water onto the fields, but today's farmers prefer diesel-driven pumps. The Gortys ruins are reminders of the moving history of an ancient town. Initial prosperity came at the time of Dorer in the 5th century BC, when Gortys became the most powerful town of the Messara plain, as it subjugated Phaistos and Matala. And when the Romans came, they made Gortys the capital of the province of Crete and Cyrenaica, which included Egypt and parts of North Africa. With its beautiful sandy beaches and caves in the sandstone cliffs of the horseshoe-shaped Bay of Matala, is a popular coastal resort. Here, the fatherly god Zeus was born. Odysseus was stranded on the island. Thanks to the Minoan palaces, Phaistos enjoys the most impressive location on the plateau, with a view over the distant Messara plain. Phaistos was first built in 1900 BC, but was destroyed 200 years later. However, a new palace was built on its original location. Agia Galini is often described as a quiet fishing village, but during the summer months, it's the liveliest bathing resort on Crete's south coast. Young, pleasure-seeking tourists favour the beach and nightlife that guarantee them a good time. Throughout the year, cool, fresh, sparkling spring water flows from a fountain decorated with lions' heads in Spili. A small town with a bishop's residence and priest's seminary is located in lush surroundings. The Arkadi monastery lies isolated on a small plateau among hills at the foot of the Psiloritis mountains at the end of a winding road. Around 1700 AD, Arkadi was by now a wealthy monastery, and with more than 300 monks in residence, set a fine example for the rest of the country. Several hundred meters under the monastery is the Preveli Oasis, a small freshwater lake lined with palm trees and fed by a mountain stream. The shimmering green water flows over small waterfalls, past well-formed rocks and into the mini oasis. Moni Preveli was one of the richest monasteries in Crete. Today, however, only a few monks live in the much-visited Iohannis Monastery. The beautiful home of the father of the gods, Zeus, is the setting for many Greek sagas. Sun-drenched coastlines, picturesque villages and majestic mountains. No wonder that even the gods felt comfortable here. The precipitous rocky coastline of Agia Rumeli is also the starting point of the Samaria Gorge, that is regarded as the largest in Europe. 19 kilometers long and in places up to 150 meters wide, the gorge stretches from the Libyan Sea up to the heights of Lefka Ori, or the White Mountains. Until a few centuries ago, the White Mountains were passable only by mule and therefore offered a safe retreat for wartime partisans, and its unique vegetation has been preserved. Chania, Crete's third largest harbour town, in which Venetian architecture and Turkish remains have left their mark. Situated on the north side of the island, at the foot of the White Mountains, on Crete's dreamy shores. The harbour's entrance is overlooked by a fortress wall built by the Venetians that dates from the Middle Ages and protected the Castelli Hills. In Rethymnon, in the northwest of the island, are reminders of Crete's Venetian and Turkish conquerors. Invitingly, its narrow streets are perfect for a stroll. On the sunshine island of Crete, on which Alexis Zorba danced the fiery Sirtaki, everyone discovers their perfect paradise. Set in the picturesque, deeply fissured hillside of the Parnassus is Delphi, legendary ancient Greek home of the Holy Oracle. Delphi is the place where over 2,000 years ago the Greeks sought spiritual advice from the god Apollo, who they believed spoke to them through an oracle. A female priest by the name of Pythia allowed herself to be inspired by intoxicating fumes which emanated from a crack in the earth, and thus transmitted Apollo's divine instructions. Because of its special geographic location, in ancient times Delphi was known as the navel of the world. From the hillsides of the temple area, a breathtaking view opens up over the valley of the river Plistos. The well-known and much worshipped oracle attracted so many people that during the 7th century BC, Delphi became the cultural and religious centre of ancient Greece. One of many inscriptions describes the famous Battle of Marathon, while other text glorifies the Pythic Games that were held here every 4 years. This magnificent amphitheatre was built in the 4th century BC. It is one of the most well-preserved theatres in Greece and can hold up to 5,000 spectators. The Delphi Museum contains a fascinating collection of archaeological finds and valuable works of art. The numerous beautiful portrayals of Aphrodite and various marvellous metopes exhibited in the museum impart a rich sense of history to its visitors. World famous is this bronze statue of the charioteer of Delphi and the 2 larger-than-life-sized heroes made from Paric marble. Dodecanese is the name of a group of Greek islands that is located in the southeast of the Aegean, just off the Turkish coast. It warrants more than its name of 12 islands. Kos, green pearl of the Aegean, an historic oasis beneath the Greek sun. Not the largest of the Dodecanese islands, but certainly one of its most fascinating. Following their arrival from Jerusalem, the Order of the Knights of Malta built this huge fortified complex. The history of this ancient settlement began in 14 BC, when the island's capital was founded here. The Platia Eleftherias is the main square of today's Kos. The spacious square is surrounded by numerous buildings and a museum. In 1934, Italian archaeologists discovered the Casa Romana amid the ruins of the central thermal baths. 3 yards with small wells are encircled by 2-story arcades. The master builders of old were highly skilled. As a city, Kos has succeeded in blending together the remains of antiquity with contemporary times. Only 4 kilometers from the city, high in the Dikeos Mountains, is one of the island's most important sites, the Asclepion, an ancient hospital and sanctuary. Kephalos has much historical significance, as it was built on the ruins of the first capital of the island, and Hippocrates was born here in 460 BC. Its white houses and narrow valleys are free of traffic, and it's as though time has stood still. The protected Bay of Kephalos has endless sandy beaches, and on the coast are the remains of the small early Christian basilica of Agios Stephanos. Antimachia Castle was built in the 13th century by the Venetians. Mastikari is located on the island's northern coast. A small harbour has a colourful array of fishing boats and yachts. Its 200 inhabitants are wary of tourism. Zia is the island's perfect mountain village. In the past, the abundance of water in this area brought the village much prosperity, but now its inhabitants profit from tourism. Kos is a jewel of the Aegean. Symi, only 4 sea miles away from the Turkish coast and 42 kilometers northwest of Rhodes. The houses look like a scene from a picture postcard, and their design often surprises the many tourists who come here each day. The ferry leads to one of the most beautiful cities in the Aegean, and the beginning of a wonderful adventure. Here there aren't any hotel complexes that interfere with a splendid ensemble of elegant old houses and captivating harbour. It's a truly picturesque holiday resort. In antiquity, the first settlers existed by diving for the natural sponges that are to be found just off the island. They are cleaned, dried, and offered for sale. The fascinating view from Castle Mountain takes in the romantic, picturesque harbour and a magnificent panoramic view of the surroundings. The ferry slowly leaves the harbour in the direction of another interesting location. A famous place of pilgrimage, the Moni Panormitis Monastery, that is located in an isolated and sheltered bay. The main interest of the pilgrims is a miracle icon of Archangel Michael. However, there are further islands to explore. Rhodes is the largest island of the Dodecanese. Since antiquity, this special location has brought it both power and wealth. On the northernmost tip of the island is the fascinating metropolis of Chora Rhodos, whose harbour entrance was once adorned by the seventh wonder of the world, the Colossus of Rhodes. Rhodes was one of the most important cities in antiquity and fended off attack due to its impressively tall city walls. But the mighty-looking fortification was in reality a deception, as it was far from sturdy. Later, a real city wall was built. At the city's highest point is the huge palace of the Grand Master. The splendid attire and family charts of the Grand Master indicate the unlimited power and magnificence of this God-fearing knight and ultimate commander. The Street of the Knights leads from the hospital up the hill to the Grand Master Palace, a unique ensemble of Gothic medieval architecture set amid the Mediterranean. For more than 200 years, the Grand Master Palace and the Knights Hospital were the island's most important buildings. Today, the Order's well-preserved hospital is open to the general public. Following the capture of Rhodes by the Turks, the city was transformed into one that contained many elements of Turkish design. Subsequent invasions brought little change for the worse. On the contrary, in 1912, the Italians restored the medieval district, and the old town of Rhodes is now tantamount to a protected artistic monument. On the hill above the city are the impressive remains of ancient Rhodes. Philerimos is located on the island's west coast, close to the city of Rhodes. The Crusaders built this complex on historic ground. The journey travels to the interior of the island, to Petaloudis, the Valley of Butterflies. Everywhere, isolated places hide gems of Byzantine art. At the end of the steep path, there's a small white church that is part of Tsambika Monastery. Exposed to the elements, it sits high on a rock. Lindos, the most beautiful village in Rhodes, with Paulus Bay and an Acropolis that is located high above the sea. A bulwark of the West in a strategic location, a structure with 1,000 years of history, overwhelming, mighty and unique. Further south are the ruins of Asclepio Castle, surrounded by the rugged and fascinating natural landscape. and there are even more Byzantine churches. And impregnable fortresses built by the Crusaders in excellent strategic locations. This view into the past makes history come alive. Fortresses and archaeological sites alternate with picturesque beaches. In these magnificent Aegean islands, numerous gods, knights and tourists have always found good fortune and enchantment.